Hey everyone, in this episode, I talked to Makenna Luban. She shared her transition between working for somebody who denied her of time off in some very important times of her life, which I'm sure we can relate to realizing that she should jump into entrepreneurship and have her own company if she wanted to have a little bit more freedom and a little bit more flexibility with her time. We talked about her transition from social media marketing to email marketing and why she believes that you really need to use three different types of stories in your emails to be successful. She gave you some really good tips on how to grow your email list. I also share with you guys my link to Flowdesk on this episode so you can get some discount to start using Flowdesk as your email provider. They are amazing and they have lots of resources for you. Without further ado, let's dive into this episode and learn more about email marketing. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Accidental CEO podcast. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, and today I have Makenna Luban with me. She is an email copywriter and CEO of To Live with Intent. Welcome, Makenna.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for spending some time with us. I'm excited about all the great things that we are going to talk about today. I know you didn't necessarily start there, though, so I want you to tell them a little bit of your story for where you started to where you're at today. I also tell them where you are actually physically because I think they're going to love to hear that.
Okay, so I am currently in Germany, but I'm from Utah. So I have now lived here almost 3 years, which is crazy. Long story short, I met my husband in Utah in the USA, and he's from Germany. So we moved here. But a little bit about how I started my business. So it was back in 2020. I had graduated college a few months before, and we actually, right after I graduated, we went and moved to Germany for a few months, and it was so fun. And then the pandemic happened, and we were scared that we wouldn't be able to get back into the US. So we quickly ended our trip shortly and came back. And while I was living in Germany, I was actually trying to teach English online through VipKid. I was really interested in a remote job because I love traveling so much. But I moved back to the US. This is the first time since I had a bachelor's degree that I could actually start working. And so I started applying to jobs expecting I'd be able to find one super easily because I had a degree. And it was really devastating, to be honest, to realize I could not find a job any easier than I could without a degree. And so I was applying to all of these places and no luck until I finally found one that ended up being a glorified call center job. I helped students enroll in college and I didn't like it. And it was really hard because it was 100% remote, but they had all these stipulations you can't leave Utah, you can't, it wasn't flexible at all, which is crazy because it was remote. And so we really wanted to move to Florida, actually. And I asked my employer, I was like, hey, is there any way I have been 100% working from home? It won't make a difference. And she said, no. She's like, no, you have to be in Utah. It won't work otherwise. And then there came a point where I asked for time off to meet my first nephew. And she told me no. And I just was flabbergasted. I was like,
wow,
so mad. I was like, how can an employer tell me I don't know, something that's such a priority in my life, they just have the power to say nope, can't do that. And so it was at that point where during my remote job, during calls or slow moments, I was on Instagram trying to start a business. I actually was a photographer before. That was the first business that I tried doing. I took some photos for weddings and stuff like that. And then I was like, hey, I can use this skill to become a content creator. And so I started posting photos on my account of traveling in Utah. I decided after seeing people live a remote lifestyle that I'd go into social media management. And so that's what first started my shift to working online. I ended up switching to copywriting after that because it has more of a direct impact, I feel on sales than just managing someone's social. So that's how I got to where I am today.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm sure that it's something that a lot of people can resonate with. The fact that you work so hard to get this degree, you pay so much money, go into debt a lot of times, only to find out that that diploma, that degree necessarily that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna have a job right away, or even you're gonna have a job with a decent paycheck. So very hard realization to go through when you get out of college. What was your degree on?
So I was gonna be a therapist, so I did family science, and then I decided not to because I take on people's emotions too easily, and I was bringing it home with me. So when you get a degree like that, though, it's like you have to get a master's for a job in the field, and so it really has felt kind of pointless, which is really sad.
Yeah, yeah. So when you were in Germany the first time around, were you working there too? You said you were trying to teach some classes?
Yeah, so I was doing working for VIP Kid. It's a company that teaches English to kids in China, and so that was like it wasn't very consistent. It was just like a little bit of money here and there,
Here
but
and there.
yeah.
And what made you guys wanna move back to Germany?
So that's a funny story because so I was doing social media management, right? Right away, and this is like why I'm so passionate about email because this was all on Instagram. I found clients so easily on Instagram back in 2021. Like it was easy. And so it got to a point where we had actually quit our jobs. I was like, I have 3 clients, like this is enough to like work full time and I'm getting inquiries regularly. So I was like, cool, let's quit our jobs. Like we can live off my income. We're going to move to Florida for the summer just to like try it out. We got an Airbnb for 2 months, and then after that, the plan was to travel around Europe. And then, like, right after we quit our jobs, I found out I was pregnant and it was not planned at the time. And what was the most stressful part is I was turning 26 right before I was having my baby. And so I was going to be kicked off my parents' insurance, and my husband wasn't insured at the time. And so it was like, and it's crazy expensive, as you know, in the USA to be on insurance as a freelancer. And so right away, we're like, "What do we do?" And so Germany was just it was the obvious choice because we could come right here, get insured right away. We have a lot of family support here. It just, yeah, it made the most sense. So
That
that's
makes
what brought us
sense.
here.
There you go. How is your German now?
Oh, not very good. I'm trying to learn, but it's like I can get by in everyday life, but beyond that, it's really hard. I'm trying to get into some classes again, but yeah, it's really time consuming. If you do classes here, it's like 4 hours a day, so
Mhm.
we'll
Not
see.
Yeah, second languages are not as easy as people think. Let's
No.
talk a little bit more about those moments that really pushed you into starting your own business, particularly when you were denied that time off. Because I know part of that time off denial was to get to meet your nephew, but was there something about your honeymoon as well?
Yeah, so that was actually that was my job before. Right when we got married, obviously you dream of your honeymoon your whole life. Like I wanted to go to Thailand since I was a child. Both my husband and I asked our employers for time off. And because I was working at a tax firm at the time, they told me I couldn't get any time off. They're like, we make no like exceptions. No, I think they let me take one day. I think they let me take Friday because that was the actual day of my wedding. Yeah, no time off. My husband couldn't get time off either. And so our honeymoon was in Sundance, Utah, which is actually really pretty, but it was like 15 minutes from our house. And so it's like, wasn't a real honeymoon. So it was Saturday, Sunday, and his shift was at 4 a.m. Monday. And so it's like we had a night and a half for a honeymoon. And then we were driving back to our apartment so he could get to work. And so I feel like that and my second job just really, I felt so much anger about that, where it's like, I can't believe that a company can tell me whether or not I could prioritize my life. Like,
So tell me about this. So you moved to a different country and your degree over there is not necessarily recognized, right? So do you feel like that kind of pushed you towards even putting some more efforts into having your own business and being able to work remotely and all that? Or was that not part of the decision making process?
well, that was probably the biggest factor into in keeping going. Because after I had a child, I went from like hustling all the time to try to get clients to being like, this is not sustainable. And like having this constant conflict of like being on my phone too much and feeling so guilty and just wanting to give it all up so I could just be with my daughter. So honestly, if I could have worked, I probably would have gotten a job here. But because like they don't view my degree as legitimate across countries unless I go through this big process, and it's like if I want to make money in Germany, my only opportunity right now is to freelance, and so that's what kept me going, I'd say.
Yeah. So, what made you go from social media management to email copywriting? Like, what was that made the switch and why that specifically? And how did you realize that that kind of aligned with your values and what you wanted to do?
I started as a social media manager, like you just said. It reached a point where I always say this Gary Vee quote because I was like sitting and doing real research at like 3 a.m. as a brand new mother who was already like my baby was already getting up every like 2 hours. And so I should have been sleeping like every chance I got. Yeah, I was sitting on Instagram because I felt like I had to keep up with the trends for like my clients. And so I was like doing real research and I came across this Gary Vee video that's like the definition of success is to wake up in the morning happy. And I just felt this pit in my stomach. I was like, I'm not going to wake up happy tomorrow. Like, I am so miserable. It was because of that and just realizing like I feel my clients too much. Like in my marketing, the angle was like, I'll help you get off social media hamster wheel to like prioritize your life. And I'm like, and I want to prioritize mine too. And so I was like, yeah, I'm empathizing a bit too much. I also want to get off social media. And so that's what led me to actually niche into copywriting, which I did not see in the beginning because I always thought of copywriting as like, I have to be a good writer. And I was the person in English class in high school who like put in filler words to reach the word count. I was never like the person who loved English or who was a writer. I realized I needed to learn more about marketing. And as I kept learning more and more, I found that the heart of marketing, like all the coaches are teaching, what's in all these books came from direct response copywriting. Specifically, this author, Eugene Schwartz, from the book Breakthrough Marketing, he talked about the buyer's journey in that. And that's where everything came from since. And so I was like, I need to learn more about marketing. And so that led me to wanting to be a copywriter because I learned copywriting isn't about writing, it's all about marketing. And so that's what my first switch was. And it was a lot of website copywriting. And then I recently niched into email. And I just love it so much more because it's like in email, whereas on social media, where you grow your following isn't the same as how you sell or nurture your audience. Where social media, it's the same place. And so you're constantly like competing of like, oh, I need this to get views and like to grow my account, but I also need this to sell, but I'll be penalized if I sell or if I'm too much myself and don't do like what the algorithm wants. Where email, it's like you grow it in your own way, either from social media, leading people there, or like, I don't know, however you're growing your list. And then in the emails, you can actually just sell or be yourself, and you're not trying to balance this like growth at the same time. And so that's why I really love email. And it's just like, I don't know, it feels like the perfect service for me. I really like it.
So, let's talk about email marketing a little bit more, email copywriting and all that. So, what is it that you feel like is the secret sauce to really grow your list? Let's talk about just growing your list first.
To grow your list, it's really important to make sure you're growing it with the right people. Because the mistake that I made, and I know a lot of other entrepreneurs make, is to just like create some resource or freebie that you think will do well. I did that recently where in a group I saw somebody talking about ChatGPT and using it to write your website. And I was like, oh, I totally know how to do that. So I made a free guide out of it, which was pretty good. But the point is, I am now doing email marketing. And so here I am growing my list with these people who want website when I'm like trying to sell email services. And so, like, you try to make sure that your list is aligned with your services because there are like three components of making your marketing work. And 40% of your marketing being effective is actually your traffic. So it's like, is it the right traffic for what you're selling? Like, are the right people there? Traffic is 40%, copywriting is 20%, and then the offer is the other 40%. And so that's why it's really important to make sure that the people you're getting on your list are like, they're a huge component in if like you're going to sell later. That's the first part, is making sure that your lead magnet is aligned with the people who want to grow your list if you want it to be profitable and not just big. And then after that, it really just depends on how you want to grow. And so right now, how I've been growing, and this isn't huge, but I'm happy about it. I grew my list by 40 people in the last month. And that was with like minimal effort in Facebook groups. I posted my freebie in like 3 different Facebook groups. Yeah, that's all I did. I said, anybody want this guide? And a lot of people commented, and that grew my list by 40 people in the past month. So yeah, that's one of the ways.
Do you find sometimes that it's hard to find Facebook groups that allow you to share your freebie? Because, there's a lot of people that will kind of count that as advertising for your business. And I feel like there's a lot of restrictions in a lot of groups. Have you found some groups that maybe you feel like are easier to share those free resources with?
Absolutely. You have to look a lot, especially today, because back in 2020, so many groups let you put your freebies there, but you have to like find ones that let you. And I found a few of my favorites I'll share is We Meet Wednesdays is great.
You said we meet?
It's called We Meet Wednesdays.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that one lets you put your freebie. Another one is Women Coaching Helping Coaches or something like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is great. And then Boss Moms was my favorite. They just
Yes,
closed, which
those are
I'm so
great.
sad about. And then local, like never underestimate local groups. I'm in a few from Utah actually of entrepreneurs, and those have been great. Like lots of people end up joining my email list from those. So
I love it. Yeah, so those are some good tips for our audience there. So look for groups that allow you to share those free resources that you put a lot of effort into, and make sure that you don't forget local groups, and also that you align your lead magnet with the kind of people that you want to be working with, right? Because I think that's something that's pretty simple, but we forget about that very fast when we're trying to put something together. Hey there, are you a creative professional looking to elevate your business and artistic vision? Discover the transformative power of personalized coaching tailored specifically for creatives like you. During the sessions, I dive into the unique challenges and goals for your specific business, especially as a creative entrepreneur. That's very important because what you do, it is special and it is different than everybody else. You're going to break through some mental barriers and cultivate a mindset that really nurtures the creativity and resilience of your business. We're going to enable you to thrive in both your personal and professional life. That is my goal for you. If you're ready to embark in an amazing journey of one-on-one coaching with me, hop over to accidentalceo.co and let's get you to be the CEO that you're meant to be. So you mentioned falling in love with your clients' stories. Can you share a little bit more about how these stories kind of inspire you with copywriting?
yeah, so that was a big catalyst, you could say, in why I am doing email, is because most people came to me for website copy. And it was, oh my gosh, it's so fun to find out these client stories, to like, yeah, just to ask them, like, why did you start your business? Like, what about your personality makes you run your business different? And it's like, there's like a gold mine of these stories that I just know are so persuasive for their ideal clients and make them so unique, where it's like nobody else has that. Like this one designer, for example, she has like a science background, and it's like nobody else has this background as you. And like she explained how it shows up in her designs. Like everybody has like a background and a story that makes them do their service differently than anybody else. And so I love learning about it. And that's why I transitioned to email, because it's like website, you really only have like, I don't know, maybe you could fit 3 pushing it on your about page, like if you do sections, but like email, you can do a new story every week. I love it. Do you care if I share the 3 different stories that you can share in email?
No, that would be great. I'm sure they'll love it.
Okay, so on your website, the main story that I share is really like your brand story. And the brand story is like, I'm sure you've all heard it. It's like your founder story, your why, like things like that is just like about your brand and what makes you different. But in email, there are three different types of stories that you can be sharing. The first are the brand ones, like on your about page type of stories. The second are sales stories. And the third are micro stories. So let me get into each of them. I already told a little bit about the website. It's really like what makes you different. But my favorite is to like say one of your weaknesses and how that makes you different and the best in your business. And if you remember at the beginning of this podcast, I kind of did that where I was saying how I was so bad at writing in English, but that makes me a better marketer because I focus on what copywriting is actually about. And so if you find like one of your natural weaknesses, like ask your family members, you can find how you can turn that into like one of your strengths that makes you your business different. And so that's one of my favorite for brand storytelling. And then for sales stories, they're really easy and super persuasive. So you basically tell a story about either your own life or one of your past clients, but it's about like a problem that they're facing or a solution that they want or an objection. It's just told through your story. So like if you think of like a problem they're facing, like let's say as a photographer, they feel insecure in front of the camera, for example. You can share a story of when you felt insecure in front of the camera and what you did about it and how what made you feel more confident. And that's like super persuasive to then end with like your CTA of like, and that's why I love helping my clients feel confident because I went through this. And so those are really great with sales stories, just finding like the problems and desires that your ideal clients have and then putting it in either your own story or you could tell a client like one of my clients was so nervous and this is how I help them feel more confident. And then the last story are the micro stories, and this is what you'll see most from like the big, I don't know, figures in the online business like Porterfield. I can't think of her name.
Amy? Mhm.
Yes, thank you. Amy Porterfield and like the biggest personal brands out there use these micro stories. So it's basically like you share a random story from your day, like even just like an experience. Like one I told in my email lately was how I wore this bright yellow jacket and this woman, I walked past her and she was like, woohoo. And I was like, what the heck? And then as I kept walking, I thought about what she said. And she was like, if I translated it from German, it was like, yoo-hoo, bright yellow jacket is what she said when I walked past. And I just told that story and like showed the text, like took people in of how I sent it to my husband. And I was like, do I look weird in this jacket? I feel like really insecure about it now. I just told that story to then use it as an analogy to say like, what are some ways we can stand out online without being flashy? And then like that was like the perfect transition to share that lesson. And so what these micro stories do is they build trust with you and help people like get to know, like, and trust you as a brand. And so that makes them like come to like you and look forward to your emails, which is awesome. And then they also like stories make a lesson way more memorable. And so they make you stand out like 100%. And then they're like super entertaining to read. And so it's a really good transition to then like the lesson you're telling. So yeah, if you tell these three stories, these are the ones I share to make you stand out in the inbox are the brand stories, the sales stories, and those micro stories.
Those are great. Yes, thanks for sharing that. Do you feel like there's a good ratio of nurturing emails versus sale emails that people should watch for or should have in mind?
So there's like the rule, I think this might have come from HubSpot, but they always say do 80% value to 20% sales. And I think that's really important to go by because if you go, I have subscribed to probably like thousands of email lists now just to like analyze them, and like 90 beyond 90% just sell. They don't try to do the nurture. And so I think that's the biggest mistake, but always, and the ratio isn't just, I used to think it was like, okay, if you send 4 value emails, then you can sell in the fifth. But like if you do the storytelling strategy I shared, that can be a sales email if 80% of it is value. You do like a story, you do a lesson that's really valuable, and then your CTA is to like go deeper and join your program. And so you can sell in that. And so, yeah, I think the 80/20 is the best way to go about it.
Do you feel like people should have just one lead magnet they're using to grow their list, or should they have Is there value in having several or more than one? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think you should have one per offer because then you can really segment your list. And so it's like a freebie that leads to your offer. And then like the people on this freebie are interested in this offer, the ones on this are interested in this type of a thing. And then you can send like, if you want to go that complicated, you could send like specific sales messages to each type of a thing. So yeah, I think one per offer, unless you want one that like just represents your whole business to keep it simple, which starting like that would be the best thing to do. You don't have to create one for like everything if you're just trying to keep it simple.
What are some of the common mistakes you find when you start working with people and trying to help them with their email marketing?
So what we talked about is the like just showing up when there's a promotion. That's probably the biggest one. Is the email. I don't know why, but email just, and like I've done the same. So like I could ask myself, but like email doesn't feel like a priority compared to like social media. Where like if you only showed up on Instagram to sell and then you were like going quiet the rest of the time, it's like you can't expect to really like find clients that well from that. Whereas like if you're showing up and nurturing too, it's just way more effective. And it like that's so important to build trust is to not ghost your list either. Because I know like if we compared it to Instagram, if you're just like gone all the time and then you show up again, it's like, oh, where is she? And then it doesn't help people like build trust with your brand if you're always disappearing type of thing.
What do you recommend as a good frequency to email your email list?
I think as much as you can be consistent with, so even if that's like once a month, that's way better than not at all or just during sales. But I think like the best is to do at least once a week, but even more than that is like better, I feel like. Except without going overboard. Because I know there are people who do like every day. And for me personally, if someone sends me an email every day, I will unsubscribe. But I love the people who do that, have something at the top. They're like, do you want, like, they let you choose your frequency. I think that's really nice. Or to opt out of a promotion if you're not interested, then you still stay on their list instead of feeling like, oh, well, my only option is to unsubscribe because I don't want to be like, with so many emails.
Do you have a preferred email marketing tool that you recommend to your clients?
I think ConvertKit is really great. Yeah, I did MailerLite before and I switched to ConvertKit. Flowdesk is popular, but I haven't used it, so I don't know. But I know a lot of email copywriters don't love it for reasons. I couldn't go into the reasons because I haven't used it, but I heard it's the easiest. So if you want easy, that would be a good one.
I like Flowdesk. That's what I use. I think it looks nice. There's a lot of good features in there, and it looks also very nice to the eyes of whoever is reading. I feel like some of the other platforms might be a little dry sometimes, and especially if you're working with specifically the creative entrepreneurs, people in the creative world, you want to have a little bit of that visual component to things that are more pleasing to the eye. So I think Flowdesk does a great job for that, and I'll link it to Flowdesk for you guys on the episode too. And if you want to share to Makenna some links for us, I'll make sure to do that too. I know for sure that we're going to share your freebie with the audience. You
Yes.
have a
Wait,
good one.
really quick about Flowdesk. Do you know Monkey? What's it called? That monkey one? Anyway, I saw a video on TikTok go viral the other day where she got her emails designed and she had to code them with that email platform. And I was like, man, Flowdesk would have made this easy.
Right?
Like
Yes,
using code just to put in design. It's like, yeah,
that's
it's more
crazy.
of the drag and drop, like show it. So it's definitely a lot
Exactly.
easier.
Yes, making it easy for us. We already have to wear so many hats, so the easier it is, the better for most of us. What are some things that you're looking forward to with your business as far as goals and how you want to grow personally and professionally?
Yeah, so I always view my business as like a personal development journey. And I feel like that makes me keep going when there's like rejection and like, the ins and outs of running the business. So I think like my long-term vision, especially like my brand to live with intent, is to always like try to grow as a person and make sure my business doesn't take over my life is probably like my biggest goal. And then other unrelated one, not unrelated, but like more like future plans would be I would love to have create some networking thing, especially living in Germany as an entrepreneur is lonely. So I think it'd be cool to create a networking group. Maybe with email, I might expand to an agency eventually, but those are kind of future plans.
Very cool. What advice would you give to somebody that is finding themselves in that same situation you were in? They maybe are tired of being denied that time off that they want, or they're not seeing themselves being happy into that job they're in right now, and they're considering taking the leap into having their own business. Any good advice from your experience transitioning from working for somebody else to having your own business?
Yeah, so I would say to find your marketing plan and stick to it because it is so easy to go into the whole like overworking, working more than your previous job with tasks that aren't even moving your business forward and to just like hustle. And so I would say choose your marketing strategy that you want to get leads from and just stick to that. Stop. You don't have to be on every platform. You don't have to do all the things. Just like stick to what you want to do and don't go outside of that would probably be my best advice.
Having a plan to begin with is already helpful. So definitely having a good plan and then trying to stick to it the best of your abilities. So tell everybody where they can find you, McKenna, if they want to work with you and have you help them out with their email copy.
Yeah, so I will provide this guide that I have called The Strategy Behind an Effective Weekly Email, which kind of goes into those stories. It also touches on how it's important to have a strategy with your emails if you want it to lead to sales instead of just like putting whatever in or repurposing content. Like I go into the strategy behind making your email lead to sales. And so I will link that below. And if you want to find me on Instagram, and my account is To Live with Intent.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time and sharing all the tips with our audience today. We appreciate you. And hopefully you can come back maybe another time and we'll talk some more about all kinds of things in the evolution of your company. And maybe there will be new things in there for us to share.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much for having me.
Perfect. So thank you guys for listening today. And we'll see you again next week for another episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.